Good evening and welcome to the May 9th meeting of the Town of Concord Historical Commission. We are conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The public may access this call through both telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and items after this meeting is called to order. To do so, please raise your hand and it will be acknowledged by myself. Again, I'm Alan Bogosian, and I ask the other members of the commission to identify themselves so we may work towards a quorum here. All members present will be voting members of the commission. Lauren
Meyer.
Doug
Ellis.
Nancy Frisella.
Nancy Frisella Lee.
Nancy Nelson.
Thank you. So the meeting is officially called to order, and I think in the best interest of time, we're going to let Simone jump to the front of the line and talk about I think it was the Great Outdoors Act, North Bridge Trail. So I'll turn it over to you, Simone.
Thank you very much, Alan. Good evening, everyone. So I'm joining you this evening to discuss the next trail package that we've submitted to the town of Concord. So this is for the rehabilitation of a section of the North Bridge Trail, which goes from Monument Street to include the area around the obelisk across the bridge to the area around the Minuteman statue and just beyond. In particular, this area is technically owned by the town, but managed by the park through the 1963 agreement that had been executed between the National Park Service and the town of Concord. So part of that agreement specifies that any major rehabilitations do need to come to the town of Concord. So I'll be going to the select board on May 20th for that approval process. So this project has already been presented to the conservation commissions, which have approved the drawings as provided. So I come to the Historical Commission as part of our Section 106 activities through the National Historic Preservation Act. So the town of Concord is one of our consulting parties. This package has also been sent to the Massachusetts State Historic Preservation Office, as well as our tribal partners with the Narragansett, the Mashpee Wampanoag, and the Wampanoag tribe of Gayhead and Aquina. The biggest thing I just want to draw to your attention is that the goal for the National Park Service was to be as light as possible on the land. In this particular area, it's a commemorative landscape. It is contributing to the Historic District nomination for the National Park. In particular, of course, is some of our drainage issues, which you probably experienced if you had come to the parade this year, where we had to have the parade go around rather than come through the park and over the bridge because of the flooding on part of the trail. Now, I do want to stress that this proposal is not going to necessarily stop the river. The goal of what we're doing is to just try to speed up the removal of the water off the trail. But we wanted to do that in such a way that it would be, again, very light on the landscape. So you'll have seen in the drawings, there's not any heavy infrastructure that we're proposing, any armoring or anything of that sort, because we wanted to protect the landscape itself. So the work will be focusing on a couple of key features. In particular, the benches will be replaced. You'll notice that some of them have been damaged over the years. So those will be replaced. The cobblestone will be reset. You'll notice in some places it's either disappeared because the trail has sort of spread out. So we'll get the trail back to its original alignment. We'll be rehabilitating the entirety of the trail surface from Monument Street up past the Minuteman statue. And then in addition, we'll be putting in some very small light on the land sort of swales on one side of the trail, again, just to help with the removal of the water as it sort of shears off at the center. So I'm here for any questions you might have. and appreciate your time this evening.
Any questions, comments?
Was there any information sent out on Ms. Allen?
There was, yeah,
Okay.
there was an email that was sent out to, I think it was everyone that.
It's also posted on our minutes and agendas and on the current meeting documents. And
Okay,
there's the agreement and Simone's letter and the actual construction drawings.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, because I was actually planning on getting to walk the trail, but I wasn't able to.
I just think it's, I've looked at the construction drawings and the other documents, and I can confirm that over the years, this problem of drainage and erosion of the trail have become worse and worse.
Yeah.
And I think this, the project balances well, the real need to provide for better drainage so that the whole thing doesn't wash off into the river. And the historic nature of the alley and the area in general.
Simone, is the materials that are going to be used here similar to, like, I spend a lot of time in Gettysburg, and the trails in Gettysburg, the white kind of crushed stone. Is it the similar materials all over, or?
So the material that we use and that we're going to be using for the rehabilitation is similar to what is there now. So what it's called is organic lock. So you use the materials, and then it's a proprietary system, and essentially when the material in place.
Yes.
Over the years, sort of the core of that material kind of ends up loosening, and then when the river comes, it just sort of takes it with you. So if you've walked the trail, you've seen kind of along the trail edge material that has essentially moved when the water is sitting on the trail and then sort of shears off. So we'll be going back with the organic lock. So because it does give that visual appearance. We don't want anything that is too road-like, i.e. we don't want it to look like a paved trail. So we want to give that sort of that sense to the visitors, that they're able to kind of go back in time, but in a way that we can utilize the organic lock to lock the material in place. It's easy to repair, spot repairs, which we've been doing over the years, but it has been quite some time, and Nancy probably knows best. The last time there was a real major rehabilitation of the trail, I believe is when you were there, Nancy. So it's something that needs to be done to be really refreshed, but it's the improvements of the drainage that should help with the reliability and the resiliency of the trail material and the trail itself. Again, we recognize that we are not going to stop the river when it goes to flood stage. It's really just trying to give us the ability to try to get the water off the trail faster in order to allow it to dry out for us to then do any repairs that are needed. This year was, I wouldn't say unique, obviously it's happened in the past, but the trail was underwater for over a month. There's only so much you can do unless you asphalt it, and that's, definitely not the appearance we would want within the cultural landscape and the commemorative, the scene at the bridge. So the organic lock, we've had a lot of success with it, but it does need to be sort of substantially refreshed after all the beating it's been taken, in particular along the river.
Lauren?
Yeah, I'd just like to say hello to Simone. We haven't met, but I was worked at the Olmsted Center back when Nancy was superintendent.
Okay.
And I think I worked on a 20 years ago, rehabilitation of the North Bridge with Charlie Pepper. And I know that stabilized stone dust material that Simone is referring to. And it's been I think it was really championed at Minuteman. And it's been a great material. It uses ground walnut shells, I think, to help bind the material together. And I did note Elliot Fold's notes on his section 106 comments, which were very positive, which would be consistent with what we would hope for. So looks great. Yay. Great to see that moving forward. I have one kind of conceptual question.
Sure.
And that is, I think one of the things we're noticing is just, with climate change is just, and this year is, holy cow, an incredible, I feel like Concord and Sudbury have been just flooded. It's just been amazing to see. And do you think that this new strategy is going to give you better resilience if the storm patterns continue and we have continued, high water levels and a lot of rain? But congratulations on a really great and important project.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that. So that is something that we were struggling with in finding that balance when we were working with the contractor. Their initial design that had come was much heavier from an infrastructure perspective to, again, sort of increase the ability for that resiliency. From a historic preservation perspective, many of us were very shocked at the level of what they were proposing. So Elliot, we actually had a site visit. We brought Elliot. For those who don't know Elliot, he's a historical landscape architect at the Olmsted Center. We brought our archaeologist out. We had essentially all of the cultural resources folks out from the region as well as the park to walk with the designers to sort of stress to them the importance of finding opportunities to make the trail more resilient without essentially destroying the landscape as we know it, as we see it, that commemorative piece. We didn't want it to look like sort of those islands in a parking lot with a lot of heavy bioswales and such.
Yeah.
And that was what they had initially proposed to us. And we said, this is not going to work in this landscape. We're going to have to pull it back, recognizing that we do lose some resiliency as a result, but the landscape is so significant that we were comfortable as managers and sort of pulling that back a little bit. We do think what we are proposing will increase its resiliency. But as climate change continues, obviously this is something we have to continue to watch. We're hoping we don't have to get to that point when we have to get to armoring or going to asphalt trail. We really want to avoid that for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Recognizing that, we can make these adjustments to make the resiliency better, but still recognizing, the river is going to go where the river wants to go.
It is. I mean, the good news is, and this is where not being paved actually, I think, works to your advantage. It's repairable.
Right.
So you might have to go in and repair it a bit more often.
Mhm.
But I did note on Elliot's comments that it was a light touch. And I thought that was, really, really the right solution. It's very hard, isn't it, to strike that balance?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, did you have a comment?
I just had a question, very quick question, is when are you hoping to start the work and how long will it take?
So as I mentioned, I'm going to the select board on the 20th of May, and that would sort of finish the requirements for the town of Concord. The Section 106 review period for the SHPO as well as the tribes goes through the beginning of June. So we're not expecting any major concerns to come back from them. Obviously, we've been keeping them in the loop. So we think that review will end satisfactorily in terms of a finding of no adverse effect. So we are proposing work to begin in August. What we're trying to work out with the contractor right now is there an efficiency if we close both sides and just have them go in and do the work? Understanding that obviously that impacts visitors, but, sort of the rip off the Band-Aid, just get it done. Because we want to make sure that the construction at Northbridge in particular is wrapped up before the very busy fall season. I haven't gotten a clear definition from them of how long they think the work will take, because again, we had proposed to them, if you do one side and then the other side, what will that actually look like? But my initial understanding is that it would be a few weeks. But I don't have a defined timeline as of yet, but we would be looking to start in mid-August.
Great.
What's the overall length of the trail?
So, so I believe it is
Is it a
just
mile or?
under, no, I don't think it's quite a mile, from Monument Street all the way up to the visitor center. I think it's, about a quarter mile.
Oh. Yeah. Lauren?
One just procedural question, and this is sort of to you, Alan, and to Anne. Will we be writing a letter?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask Simone.
Yeah.
What do you need from us?
So, so since we formally submitted a letter through the Section 106 process, you know, if Anne, from the town's perspective, a letter back just saying that you have no concerns, would probably be beneficial for our record for Section 106. Obviously, from the select board's perspective, the package that I had sent to them, it ties more to the 1963 agreement in terms of the approval process, so which is a little bit different. But for the purposes of Section 106, we would appreciate a letter back, just acknowledging that you reviewed the plans, you concur, or you agree that, you know, our finding of a no adverse effect is appropriate, and that would help us kind of tie that piece together.
Okay, and from a procedural point of view, do we have to vote on that, or can we just say, yes, we'll do the letter?
I'm honestly not entirely sure, but to be safe, you could go ahead and vote.
Okay,
I'll-
Nancy?
I'll make a motion that we approve the plans for the North Bridge rehabilitation and the trail in particular to be done by the National Park Service.
Do I have a second?
With a letter to go to the National Park and also the State Historic Preservation Office.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of Nancy's motion? Aye,
Aye.
looks
Aye.
unanimous. So,
And
Yep,
you just want to make sure you add, you know, that a finding of no adverse effect on the letter.
yeah,
Good point.
Great.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you,
thank you,
Simone.
Simone.
Yes, well,
Kim.
Good to see you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Okay. So moving along to, I think the historic marker application, the folks have opted out of from the Brooks Inn. Right, Ann? They're not here tonight?
Right, they would still like to install the marker,
Oh.
but I said that, you know, I could just, you know, represent them.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So we did just add the information up to the website, the Macros form. So the house, you know, was built as the, I think it was the Isaiah Brooks house. But after Isaiah passed, his wife operated a boarding house there and called it the Brooks Inn. And he would love to call it the Brooks Inn. The date on the Macros form was circa 1875, but I, you know, pulled together some maps and found that it was standing back in 1866. So, you know, he said, you know, the Brooks Inn circa 1865 sounds good to him. And we just wanted to see how you felt about that.
So he's picking to stick with a later date, even though you found an earlier date?
No, sorry, you maybe I misspoke or maybe you misheard.
Maybe I
Oh,
misunderstood. I might have got that mixed up. That's why I'm asking.
Right. So no, the Brooks Inn circa 1865,
Oh, okay, thank
which
you.
is 10 years earlier than the Macros form.
Yeah, gotcha. Yes, yes.
Nancy?
Can I ask, how, I read the Macros form, it was quite fun. History. How long was it an inn? For how many years? And what were the years? I don't remember if it said.
Right, I didn't go that deeply into the research. That was sort of a question I had had too, since it wasn't built as an inn, whether it's appropriate to call it an inn.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not sure. I would like to know more about that before we just go ahead and approve wording. I'm very happy for them to have a sign on their house. I think that's great, but yeah, I just would like to know a little bit more about that, because if it was only for a year or two, I don't think that that would be a representation of the historic, importance of the house. The Mary Brooks, that's her name, the wife was, I noted that she was a leader of the suffragette movement in Concord, so that also seems to be important information, so,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know how other people feel about that, but,
I think it probably wouldn't be a major problem for them to wait.
hmm.
Do you think, Anne?
I don't think it would be a problem,
No.
and that would give us time to do some more digging.
We did some more research on it.
Yeah, mhm.
Okay.
Doug, did you have a comment at all?
No, that makes sense. It's definitely a historic house. It's pretty cool, the history. But yeah, if it was a house that was used for, a period as an inn, to call it an inn, it's really not its historic significance.
Yeah, right.
Right, I mean,
Go ahead, sorry.
I think that's the key issue. What Doug said is that, why is this building significant? And that's what should go on the marker.
Right.
And it's kind of cool that it was an inn. And
Yeah,
maybe that
yeah.
is, its most important use, but also, maybe it's just the Isaiah and Mary Brooks house. Or
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we can bring this up and revisit it next month, or,
Sounds good.
okay?
Can I add something right here?
Sure.
It's interesting, when I was superintendent, there are certain things that the national park had to come before town committees for approval. One of those was the Natural Resource Commission when there were septic systems, but not for clearing trees along the river. And otherwise, the select board is responsible to look at and approve major changes to the town-owned land, which includes the parking lot across from North Bridge, the alley leading up to the bridge, the 1835 monument, the bridge, and the Minuteman statue, and a little fence around it. So that's all town land to this day, and so the park is obligated to go for select board approval. Sometimes the select board has asked other town committees to take a look as well. But we don't really have an approval here. It's a courtesy, and it's a partnership thing. I mean, this relationship between the town and parks gone on and worked well for a very long time.
Nancy, are you referring to the North Bridge project?
Yes,
But we do have a role in section 106.
but
So
that's in terms of consulting,
Yeah.
not approving,
right.
but consulting.
Yes.
And
So that's where a letter
I got that. Yeah, you're
to
right.
MHC can
Be helpful and part of it.
confirming,
part of
our finding of no adverse effect.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
So happy you're here.
Sorry.
And any other details we should be putting in, Lauren?
Yes, well, wait a minute. I have to tell one thing. I don't know how many of you saw Bob Gross's little piece about the history of the obelisk there and its relationship to the Bunker Hill Monument, and how originally there was discussion and controversy about where should it be? Should it be in the center of town? Should it be close to the bridge? So somebody put a big granite thing near the town center to mark where the obelisk would go, and the opponents piled wood barrels and all kinds of stuff on top of that and made their own little monument. Doug's heard this before.
Yeah.
And they set fire to it. And it burned so brightly that the base cracked. And eventually, I think maybe a couple years later, it ended up in front of the bridge. And a while after that, the alley was planted as to provide a particularly improved approach to the 1835 monument.
Experience, yeah.
So I think Concordians, unbelievable.
I was, that's part of, I did a lot of research on that last year when I was starting my monuments and markers project. And it took 10 years actually for them to restart the project, if I recall. My memory is fading. So it took quite a long time for them to restart it. And there was a direct relationship between the Bunker Hill Monument and that one, the designer was the same, and maybe
But it was supposed to be smaller.
Yeah, and there was money collected, and we got a small portion of it, and yeah, there was a direct link between it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very fun.
It was the first monument that our town built, so it's it's a marker for that, historically important just for that reason alone.
Yeah,
apart from everything
awesome.
else. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Moving on to parcel 1693.
That would be Anne.
I think we have an update on that from Anne.
Okay, so I think I'll make this very, very quick. I just wanted to touch on some of the really incredibly important history of that site, and also sort of show you what I was able to find when the Permanent Memorial Committee had asked me to do a cultural history of the site, sort of where these structures and fences and things were. Because if we're looking into the, if the commission is asking the Permanent Memorial Committee to look into archaeology, let's take a look at what was actually there, right? And see what we're looking for. So I'll just run through it super quickly.
Not too fast.
Okay.
Entertain us.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so here's the parcel. We're all familiar with that. And here is the area that will be used for the permanent memorial. So in the tours and in the presentations that they've done, they've really focused in on the sort of late 19th century era. But to me, as a historian, all of these earlier eras are just so much more important because they really have, national and even international repercussions. So, the pre-1635, the creation of Concord, the Battle of Concord, the county house and jail. So some of the first county structures of the new republic, in 1789. And then later on in the 19th century, the first Middlesex Hotel, of course, the famous Thoreau's Nightingale, this jail that was constructed in 1789. Then the second Middlesex Hotel, and then it was turned into a park after the
Second
hotel was.
hotel. Oh,
Right?
I didn't catch that before.
Oh yeah.
Oh, interesting.
What did you miss, Nancy?
But there were two Middlesex hotels.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So I'll get into that in a little bit. So of course you're all familiar with this map and the Native American settlement that was here, the founding, the creation of Concord. You all know that, of course, this was the traditional center of the 6 Mile Square, and here's a conceptual drawing of the 6 Mile Square done in the late 19th century. Zooming in on that 6 Mile Square, this is approximately the site of parcel 1693, the Reverend Peter Bulkley House, where the agreement was signed between the native people and the English settlers by tradition, right? Near the mill dam, sorry, the grist mill. And here's an image of the Peter Bulkley House, which actually comes from the famous Doolittle print, which of course you see here. And of course, to see a representation of a town, a
Not
small.
right there where your arrow is, right? More to the left.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
right,
Okay,
this-
just
Yeah.
right.
checking.
Yeah, so this would be the Peter Bulkley House, and this is the Dr. Timothy Minot House, right next to it. And we know this partly because of, people have been talking about this area, and we have, these amazing images of this area, going back to 1775. Thoreau described it in 1855, where he was meeting with some of the, descendants of the people who had lived in these homes. Here, it's, even more clearly described, and this is based on, deed research and old plans, which I'll show you in a minute. So just to, show you again, parcel 1693 is this area here at the corner. And it included both of these houses, the Peter Bulkley House, which had become Betty Hartshorn's house, and the Dr. Timothy Minot House. And these structures were described by Shattuck and others. Let's see. The Dr. Timothy Minot House, played a part, of course, here are the regulars coming here. Supposedly Betty Hartshorn was Dr. Minot's servant. And of course, she was living in this home. And she supposedly, we don't know, helped Mrs. Moulton put out the fire that we all have heard about on the townhouse, and that was visible to the regulars up at the North Bridge.
I thought that story of them actually setting the townhouse on fire was proven to be incorrect. That they were burning stores of something.
Right.
They were burning the wagons and the wheels for the cannon, right? But then I heard that the courthouse, the townhouse caught fire.
Oh, it just
I've heard that too.
jumped over. Is there any
Yeah.
real documentation that? Interesting. Okay.
There were a lot of oral histories, of course.
Yeah.
And Shattuck was doing those oral histories even
Right.
in the 1830s, since people were still alive
Yeah.
that had been there. And then the other very interesting thing about Dr. Timothy Minot's house is this is where the soldiers were treated after the battle. So he was treating them in this home. And he had this, according to Shattuck, there was an old African-American servant who helped him. One of the British soldiers who was being treated by, a patriot, left his gold watch behind, and this Native American woman, Rose Minot, returned the watch, right? And this has been written about since the 1830s.
I've heard her referred to as Rose. Is it documented that she was called Rose Minot, given that the family name Minot?
Right, Minot was certainly her enslavers' names.
Yeah.
And her name Rose was discovered by Elise Lemire. It's in a footnote, and I think it's written into her book too. And I've seen, Timothy Minot Sr.'s will, where he talks about his servant Rose, his Negro servant Rose.
Mm.
Interesting.
So then jumping forward to 1789 to 1810, the Dr. Timothy Minot House became the county courthouse. Even when he had lived there, the deeds were stored there. This was also the house where the president of Harvard came and lived.
Hmm.
You know, in the fall, I believe, Doug, the fall of 1775, right? When Harvard came to Concord.
Yeah.
This is where the president lived. This plan from 1789 actually describes what buildings are on the border of this lot. And this is where we find Elizabeth Hartshorn Remington. Thank God for Ancestry.com, where you can make all these connections,
Yeah,
right? So that
Amen.
Betty
Right.
Hartshorn, that was her
Yeah.
maiden name, and her married name was Elizabeth Hartshorn Remington. And the grist mill, built, in the 1630s, was still standing, as of course was the Bulkley House.
Wow.
So there's probably, a good 4 structures on that one parcel, or 5 structures?
Well, okay, so, right. Yeah, so the current parcel 1693 would be this house and include this house, and, probably back to the grist mill.
But I think what,
Although some of these, actually, the present border,
Hmm.
which we can see up here, is still irregular down at this end. So the grist mill would have been down here,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But do you see the similarities?
Mhm.
Yeah. Totally
Right.
would have.
And then the irregular border down at this end.
All these buildings, in other words, are not on the piece of parcel 1693 that is being,
The project site,
This
right.
one is.
not,
The
One-
Dr. Timothy
one-
Minot House is.
One part is, yeah.
Right. And this one is on the War Memorial site. So
Yeah.
it's also on parcel 1693.
I wonder when they did that work, did they do archaeology then or?
for
they-
the memorial, for the big memorial there?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
I
Yeah.
doubt it.
Mhm.
Okay, then here this is fun too. Supposedly there are no existing images of the jail, but I was able to find this in the Registry of Deeds. So at least we have a floor plan of it. And there are 2 sets of stairs here. Here is an image of the jail yard. And it says the jail and jail yard within the pricked lines, I think is what it says. And then there are these great descriptions from the 18th century of the jail.
Hmm.
So, and then just go
It
ahead.
looks like it was a nice building, stone with a Palladian window and
Right, exactly.
wow.
Yeah, and I found that Bulfinch was designing county jails at that era. So
Oh, how funny.
if we could really, if somebody could spend some more time, they might find that it's a Bulfinch building.
I
Hmm.
think it's interesting that the brook is cleansing it as it runs underneath.
Right, because there are those famous descriptions of the other jail where the British soldiers were kept after the battle,
Terrible.
and complaining about the really horrible unsanitary conditions there. So when they built the new jail, they, made sure that it was more sanitary.
I heard from somebody that the basement of the jail was filled with all kinds of rocks to prevent escaping convicts from getting out that way. Is that true?
Well, it did say, where is it? Yeah, that the
Oh.
floors are nearly 8 feet thick of stone.
Oh, there it is. Oh,
Yeah, they were
well,
writing about that
Wow.
in 1892.
Golly.
Wow.
Right.
oh, that's bigger than just stones, isn't it?
Can you imagine moving that?
No.
Man.
So what are the chances that still exists, Doug?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
My
I mean,
gosh.
8 feet? And
Of course, back then they recycled everything, so it could have very easily been incorporated into another building.
And water wouldn't permeate it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So then, taking that 1789 map, or plot plan, and then overlaying the 1810 plot plan with the jail, you see again the Dr. Timothy Minot House, which is the site of the Middlesex Hotel. The jail is very close to it, just to the north. Parcel 1693 may run, the border of parcel 1693 may run right here, where you see there was the jail yard fence. So the jail itself, I think the marker is in the wrong place. The jail itself was probably on the land owned by the Catholic Church, but this piece of it may well come down onto parcel 1693.
Interesting. I thought it was farther back.
I did too.
That's what we've been thinking. We've all been thinking that.
So that means that the jail is where the rectory is now, basically.
No, so, all right, so. Let's see.
Further
Yeah,
up.
let me move this.
There.
All
Is
right.
that it?
I didn't want to confuse people, but this could very well be the centerpiece of the rectory, that has been expanded over time. Or it may be an earlier building that was there, but the rectory is approximately in this location.
Yeah, the rectory is not that old.
But Ruth Wheeler had found that inside, there is an earlier building within,
Oh,
as with everything in Concord, right?
yeah, how
The
funny.
buildings have been expanded over
Yeah,
time.
many buildings.
Um,
So that means that some evidence of the jail itself might be over the property line?
Right, I think but we don't know, that's the thing,
Yeah.
and it's
And
hard to,
potentially in the area of where the wall is proposed, I'm not gonna say going because we hope it won't go there.
here, I'll show you. Well, I just wanted to quickly show, there's been all sorts of land swaps too, and the boundaries have shifted many, many times. So then I tried to overlay the map I just showed you to, the current map, and here is parcel 1693.
I was trying to do that in my head, and there it is.
Right.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
the wall,
it.
I think, is right about here, and it
Right.
would, so the wall could,
Maybe.
impact
The wall's going to go that far, like all the way over to the brook.
120.
The wall would end, I think, right at the edge of the parking
Okay.
here.
Okay, by the
But
parking.
even
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would potentially interfere with the archaeology.
The parking lot, can you show where the parking lot is, Ann?
Yes, the parking lot
Because
is,
that might be helpful,
Yeah.
behind Vanderhoofs.
Yeah,
right, that's right there.
yeah, okay.
Right.
Right there, okay.
This is really great, Anne.
So
Yeah,
it's so
Yes.
fun, yeah.
Really.
And so I'm not the first person who has tried to figure this out. So I found this in the special collections, Charles Walcott's papers. He was a 19th century historian of Concord. Someone in the 20th century, after 1960, was also doing the same thing I was, trying to see where, the jail and the jail yard had been laid out.
Mm.
so I'm noticing that this is a PowerPoint presentation.
Maybe, can we give this to the select board?
Well, can we post it on our site or on our page anyway? Meeting documents?
Sure, it's up
or
to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would really love to
Yeah.
see the whole thing.
People have to see this.
Yeah, then we can refer people to it.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. This is great work.
It really is.
So that,
Really,
yeah, so
really.
that's really it.
I could
And then-
nerd out on this stuff for a long time.
That's
I
you're in the
think me
right
too.
place then.
Oh, this is
But I
great.
won't take up any more of your time.
This is
But-
fascinating. Can we
Take
talk
as
about
much time
Henry?
as you want.
Yeah.
We talk about Henry
Sure.
and Henry's memorial. When did that go in?
Let me see, 1942.
So far, nothing has been said about what should be done with that. And that's a big omission.
It's always in the discussion, but they've never planned for it. They've never, they say they are not forgetting that, but they've never proposed a replacement. of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's kind of incomplete.
Would that be moved, Nancy?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, they know that it has to be moved, and already, you know, I've restated myself over and over that it's a poor marker. It's so low to the ground. Most people don't even know it's there, and people take tour guide groups there, but
And those that do know it's there probably trip over it in the first
yeah,
place.
it's just in a terrible spot, and it's really a weird marker.
That is something that's always spoken about on the Permanent Memorial Subcommittee in their meeting, but there's been no real evidence that anybody's put any serious thought to that, or to what is the content on that big stone wall
Hmm.
before Concord people came.
The only thing I've heard is this idea about untold stories.
Yeah.
As a concept.
Yes.
Well, I have gone, I went to every meeting last year, and that was the overall, and it still is the overall idea behind it. But they have done the project. They've come up with a design, including these stelae that they're calling, that are made of fused glass, that is going to carry, that they
And
want
granite, and granite.
and with granite bases to carry the information along with this long wall that's represents a timeline. But they have not honed down on what the details are. And yesterday they had the latest meeting, and I pushed back quite strongly on them. Nancy Nelson and I were there at the end. There's been a letter
A
sent.
lot of people got washed out. There were a lot of people, in addition to the Permanent Memorial Subcommittee members, from not only HDC, but from the Historical Commission, including an alum, Ryan Hanley, and other members of the 250th Committee, Diane Proctor, Di Clymer. There were a lot of people, but they got washed out by the rain, except for Nancy and I. But the subcommittee as a whole stayed together for another hour after the rain broke. I think it was at least an hour. I didn't start home till 6:15. So
They started in the library, and then they had planned the site visit, but then some people already dropped out because they didn't want to walk all the way over there. And then as we were on the site, we heard the thunder rumbling, and we ended up continuing the discussion in a hallway in the back of a building.
the office park next to the townhouse.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of thinking and rethinking going on about the concept plan. It's just a concept plan.
Mhm.
And I think many people are pushing for additional concepts and for a more open and transparent process. And they now have things, they now have a special page. If you hit the 250th button on the town's homepage, you get to the executive committee. And then if you hit the executive committee button on the left, the Permanent Memorial Subcommittee shows up with a video of the proposal, as well as some information about public forums.
Is that gonna meld into a full-blown survey as to what people want, or is it?
I don't think so. I think they're rethinking their strategy for involving the public and gathering better, broader comment.
Like Lexington did?
Lexington hired MAPC to do that process, to reach out to artists and designers, as well as to engage their own public. Rumor has it that they've made a selection, but people are being very cagey about it.
Huh.
The Permanent Memorial Commission.
You know, Doug? I'm
I don't know
sorry.
anything about it.
Okay, okay. Anyway, so that's an interesting thing. We should all be engaged in that.
Mhm.
the permanent memorial is being discussed tonight as we speak. There's a simultaneous meeting of the 250th Executive Committee, and they are that on the agenda. They're discussing the permanent memorial. So I think yesterday at yesterday's subcommittee meeting, it was the first time where there were more than just 2 or 3 members of the public who weren't, members of the commission. And I think that that's a little bit of a turning point. I hope that more people are starting to pay attention. It's a little sad because they've been spending a lot of time. They have someone from Sasaki who spent a year of his time pro bono. So, they've kind of honed in on this design and have not given any other choices for people to look at. So I think they're invested in it. And so we'll see what happens.
Do you know, Nancy, is the executive committee meeting? I knew there was a meeting somewhere today, but I didn't end up finding it. Do you know if their meeting is going to be recorded, the executive committee meeting?
That I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. I'll find out.
Yeah,
I'll find
that's a good question.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we want to talk about the archaeology? That wasn't that that was on our agenda.
We sent that memo.
Right, the letters after Gary.
Maybe did the entire committee get that? Do you know, Anne? Did the entire historical commission get the memo about archaeology?
I don't think I did send it to everyone. Should I go ahead and do that?
Oh, yeah.
Or post it,
Sure.
post the letter? Okay.
Sure, yeah. Because it's been out, right, and we can review, but it was sent out to Gary.
And they brought that up at the meeting, so they're aware of it. I think they're not too unhappy that this represents a pause in the project while they figure out what to do, if to do anything, and how to do it. So I think overall it's a good thing. They seem to be, I think they were sort of impressed by the degree of interest in this project beyond their 5-member subcommittee.
Yep.
Nancy may agree. She may be more skeptical at this point, but I'm more optimistic, actually.
Yes, Lauren.
I wondered, Anne, this PowerPoint that you've done, will that be presented to the Permanent Memorial Committee, or have you?
Right. I was asked by the chair to prepare it, and so I did, and I shared it with him, and I think he sent it out to the committee, but I've never actually presented it to them.
But the information,
August.
the information's there, and it's nicely annotated, and that's a great baseline if an archaeological project does move forward. You've provided the foundation for that work, so that's just terrific.
Great, thank you.
It's interesting because it's a small committee, and it's only like 5 people. So Gary is also the presumptive chair of the executive committee, if I'm not mistaken, as well as the permanent memorial subcommittee. And there's another person on the committee who is responsible for minutes, and the minutes are incredibly good, timely, short, to the point. Another person is responsible for another facet of the permanent memorial subcommittee's work, and that is the planting of 250 trees in town. And that leaves Joe Palumbo seems to be the person who's the point for the permanent memorial hardscape. And it is a small committee, so I think they're going to be happy to have the help, frankly. And I know Polly Reeve is going to be leaned on for fundraising, but she also has that responsibility in other places in town.
I mean, that PowerPoint can basically be the first set of drawings for their committee.
What do you mean?
it could be the first set of overlay drawings. You know, to show what was
Oh, yeah.
there.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a real problem that will be solved hopefully by the archaeological investigation.
Right.
So I talked to an archaeologist today who she was a private person on the Parker's Revenge way out in Lexington at the other end of the national park. Meg Waters, she subsequently was hired by the National Park Service. So she's also married to a guy who does geothermal investigation.
Geothermal, yeah.
And LiDAR and all kinds of things like that. So I was talking to her about what an approach might be, trying to help Gary. I'm sure the Permanent Memorial Subcommittee doesn't have that expertise, and Lauren, maybe you have some of that from your experience in Belmont and the Park Service as well. So trying to help them get that archaeological piece in place. I think on their agenda, there was a hint that maybe the project should be phased. I took that to be a really good move. I think that would be good. They could do some of the landscaping and whatnot.
This is all private fundraising, is that right, for this? Is any money coming out of CPA?
The trees. And
Right.
the town manager has approved some amount of funding from ARPA and
Right.
things that are federal.
I'm on that committee.
Oh, yes, you are.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
No, I mean for the permanent memorial.
No money at all so far.
Yeah.
And for outside grants, they can't apply for anything because they don't have the proposal is not in shape, you know, in a good enough shape with the concept and the physical design.
Mm,
And the
At a
content.
standstill. And content, that I said that.
Yeah.
right.
So
So
they're
chicken
not,
and egg there.
and there are deadlines, funding grant deadlines coming up really very quickly, and they are not going to be able to catch that train. I don't.
Yeah.
Is that what you heard too, Nance? I think.
Yeah, they've
funding
already,
guys-
they acknowledged yesterday that by, you know, April 19th this year, that the park will not be finished, or the memorial rather, and it will just have been started. They might have started.
They'll be lucky to have it start.
There's no finish date. They're going to do it in a phase stage, and that they're acknowledging that openly.
I think their goal was 2026, 4th of July or something.
Mm.
They have a timeline and it's all in the minutes. But they may be revising their timeline because the archaeological business has been taking place. But it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah,
It's going to be fascinating.
yeah. Anything else on 1693? If not, we can move on to the updates of the first one, America's 11 Most Endangered Places. And that was last Wednesday. Was it last Wednesday? Yeah.
Yep.
It was
Great event. Doug was there.
quite an event.
There,
Yeah. Yeah.
photobombing all the news channels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of disappointment in the lack of coverage, media coverage. I know that they missed the deadline for the bridge for that Friday. So tomorrow should be broader coverage of that.
But it was well covered, you know, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 10.
Full house.
Yeah, the local networks, a good couple of hundred people were there. And you know, Anna Winters is just a superstar, and she it was incredible. It was incredible.
So I understand the entire thing is available if you missed it to watch it again.
Yes.
I forget where it is, but it'll be easy to figure out. I can find out.
Probably on YouTube, maybe.
Yeah. I think even on the town.
I don't know that it was us. Do you think it was us that did it?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. Minuteman Media Network. I'm not sure who did it, but we can find out.
I think was in the town. It was incredible. And Jacob Wyckoff did a nice blurb on Channel 4.
Oh, good. Oh,
About it. Yeah. Yeah. Walking over the bridge.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was very,
Oh,
very
very
well done.
nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So it was a great day. The historical preservation plan, and I think we're working on the surveys at this point with Elizabeth, and the focus groups are being set up, which will start in 2 weeks, I think, or
Right, the week of May 20th, Elizabeth
yeah.
Watson will be coming back up from Maryland. So she'll be here the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. So we had a meeting scheduled, a joint HCC CHC meeting scheduled for that Friday. But because it's Memorial Day weekend, we thought maybe moving it up to Thursday. Would that work for folks if we did it on the 23rd instead?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Good.
Yeah, so we'll do that.
Which date is the Thursday? Which date?
But May 23rd,
May 23rd. Okay.
and
Yeah.
probably 10 to 12 again. Does that work? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then she wants to hold some focus group sessions. So I sent out a bunch of emails this week. Yeah, this week on so an education focus, heritage tourism focus, and a landscape focus are the three.
Oh,
So
fun.
it's, mhm, yeah,
Right.
and just getting the survey out for annual town meeting, I think that was a big push, and we got it done. And really just today is when we were able to, get it to the townhouse, and I think it's going to be in the
I
bridge.
saw it online on our page. I
Yes,
didn't
yeah.
get a survey at town meeting. I said, whoa, there it is. And it's all colored pencils and everything. It's very noticeable. It's great. So we should all take it, I suppose.
Yeah. And the third one, the response letter for the Hanscom, the airfield development, we're still working on that letter.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
gonna ask for that.
Yeah, we're still putting bullets together on that. So
And
And there's an extension, right?
Right.
There's an extension. till
Oh,
May
what's
20th.
the new deadline?
oh,
Oh, I have to find it.
I'll find it right
is it
now.
May 13th,
I think that's-
June, is it June?
It's in
June.
June.
Yeah.
June 13th, I think.
Oh, wow.
I'll look for it right now. Yeah, it's pretty generous.
Either June 10th or June 13th, if my
I'll
memory
find it.
serves
Hang
me.
on. Hang on.
I think 14th.
June 14th.
14th.
Yeah.
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 And if you guys are interested, Save Our Heritage has a new organization or branch, Stop Private Jet Expansion. And if you want to sign up, I have Katie Winchell's address, and she sends out all kinds of stuff, including hints for letters.
Could we post that on our,
Yeah, I don't know, probably.
could we post that, Ann, or?
I'm not sure. I think I've heard that we're technically not supposed to
Oh,
make links to, although we have it for the museums and things.
Oh.
I'm not sure if we're allowed to.
Okay.
well,
check.
if anybody wants it, let me know or let Ann know, and I'll send you what I just got from them. It's very, very helpful. Katie Winchell has been in the trenches on this issue for Save Our Heritage for decades.
I can go and get it on the,
I'll just send it to you if you
yeah,
want.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
I would like it. Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
And Lauren, you're up to yours in it already, and Doug. Okay. Ann, do you want to see it?
Sure, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. That's that, and we're gonna go over the go over the minutes, bypass the minutes we haven't quite put them together yet.
So we're bypassing the minutes?
Yes,
Thank goodness.
yeah. For
Phew.
September and January.
Oh, man. Hard to keep up.
Right. And
We are so far behind in our minutes, and I did look them over, so I'm in a way disappointed because those are really old minutes. And there are
Well-
a lot of other months that we haven't gotten to. How are we going to catch up? What's our plan?
Somebody could volunteer to help.
yeah.
It's,
We-
The,
Yeah.
the town is farming them out.
yeah,
So we've got a
know.
company that we farm them out to.
We had this discussion, but so the two that we were supposed to look at tonight, we're not going to discuss those, but are there other ones that are lining up that are going to be sent to us? In other words, have they already done those minutes, or this company hasn't even done those? Is that
I
what you're
think the batch went out, you know, the department serves many, many, many committees, right? And so
No,
there's
I
a big
know.
batch that went out, for all of, you know,
Oh,
maybe.
so we're just, so they're not,
different-
yeah, okay.
Yeah, right.
so the fallback, which is not the legal requirement, are the recordings.
We're kind of at it, we're shorthanded. So we're kind of at the mercy of working with a third party. And-
No, we've
Right.
had this discussion before.
Yeah, so.
It's just
what's the
frustrating.
question now then?
So my,
What's the question now? We've had the discussion before.
no, Nancy, I know that I know that
Yeah.
the minutes have been outsourced. That's not my question.
No,
My
no,
question,
but that's why the minutes are maybe slow.
I didn't understand that. That's the part. That's the
gotcha.
question. Sorry.
Gotcha.
I use AI to do it at work.
Yeah, Lauren?
Can you just explain to me as a newcomer what the exact process is for minutes?
Right, well, it's
Good question.
shifted. We lost staff over the summer, and we were without staff for, you know, many months. The town hired a temp in December, and, you know, through that time, we were sending minutes out. You know, it wasn't me directly sending them out, it was another staff person in our department. When they come back, then, you know, I review them. And we actually did look into AI, and we tried that once, but it was so garbled, and we didn't want to be we didn't want it to turn into like a what's the word? Where we're required to share minutes that are
Yeah.
completely inaccurate.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be better to have a human being or at least draft them in case we got a public records request. So now, right, so now a human being is writing them up, comes back to us, I edit them, and then bring them before you.
Ours are actually amazingly good. It's
And even when Heather was here, we were still a couple of months in arrears on the meetings for the minutes of the meetings. We were still a couple of 3 or 4 months in arrears when Heather was here.
It's very common. If you look at other committees, the minutes are a big problem across the board, I think.
Right.
And
Do we have transcripts?
yeah, I think there might be a way to print transcripts from the videos,
In the video?
because I often see the.
Yeah,
direct
that's what I do in work.
translation.
It dumps it to a Word file that I can
Yeah, I have no idea how to get that.
generate the notes from that.
Yeah, but it does seem to be pretty accurate transcription.
Do
Mhm.
any committees do their own minutes?
Many.
Many do.
Mhm. Like the Permanent Memorial Subcommittee, the person who does their minutes, I mean, he's amazing. They're very
Yeah.
complete
Right.
minutes, very timely.
But we had talked about doing that last year. But There were no volunteers.
No,
Right.
I can't do minutes.
Right.
You don't,
I
Yeah,
mean-
I'm horrible.
you don't
I
want
mean,
me.
I work on a committee, the Friends Group, Nance. And and actually the HGC did this in Belmont, I think. We would rotate minutes. We had a template and then rotated minutes. And, you know, the challenge with that is that they can be very inconsistent.
Yeah,
And some people would literally listen to the recording and type the whole, you know,
yeah,
but I think the key thing is you want to record the gist of the discussion, you know, and any issues that are raised and any votes that are taken, right?
decisions, yeah,
Right.
vote,
Which is really important that you have a record of how people voted.
Right.
which is pretty much.
And then any action items maybe at the end that you want.
Mhm.
But it's a job.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sick job. Anyway, Doug, I
Okay.
don't have your email address. I'll get it from you.
Okay.
All right, and I think what else? What was the last one? Other businesses. Any other businesses? Communication among the historic, among the commissioners, the members. The only thing is we don't want anything to kind of leak out from the historic commission. So if I could have just a little bit of communication with the individuals before, but nothing should be sent out unless we all talk about it. And then, you know, take a vote on it. And that way it can, and talk about it at our meetings and then vote on and have it sent out.
I think if you want that signed by the historical commission, that's true. What I've always been told is we are committee members, but we have not given up our right of free speech.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if people write letters in their own name, not representing themselves as a member of the commission, that's a different thing.
Right.
I think.
Which is entirely, that's fine, right?
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Just want to clarify.
Yeah. Lauren?
But we are all subject to open meeting law, which
Mhm.
means that a quorum cannot discuss an issue in advance without holding a public meeting.
Without a public meeting.
Yeah, and
Correct.
the other thing that happens that I would get, you know, regularly reminded of is you can't have a sequential conversation.
Yeah.
So if I emailed Nancy about something and then she emailed the other Nancy and then
Right.
Nancy emailed Doug and then Doug emailed Alan, then that's the whole committee, that's a quorum. And
Right.
that violates open meeting law. So you have to watch the sequential communication as well as.
If you're deliberating.
Mm.
No,
That's-
you can't. Well, I was always told you couldn't have a conversation.
Well, you can send around, I think, information. You can schedule meetings, you can do things that are not deliberation, and somewhere it's deliberation is defined.
But you
Yeah,
and I, Lauren, could have a conversation.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, if we had like a particular issue we wanted to
Right.
kind of do a little research about in
Mhm.
advance of meeting to help move a topic along, absolutely.
Right.
And that, I think that's a good way to move
Mhm.
information forward and be efficient.
Yes. Yeah.
But we should look at I every once in a while have to go back and look at the definition of deliberation. Because some things are not. But anyway.
Okay.
I mean, that it gets fuzzy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to say. And anyone else? Wow. This is a quick one.
Look at the information on the Permanent Memorial Subcommittee page and look at the, there's a video of an artistic depiction of what's being proposed, as well as the PowerPoint presentations from the January meeting and a November meeting, even though the November meeting is labeled September 27th or something. It's
Okay.
This label.
2023, right? Yeah, November. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Can't get anything done for 24, that's for sure.
Right. I keep forgetting.
Hi, Emily. We have a guest
Hi,
from the Agricultural Committee.
yes. And
Hi,
I'm
Emily.
I'm also
Hi,
not a
Emily.
mover. Well, I was very interested, and I'm sorry I came in late to your discussion about the permanent memorial. I did flee with Melissa last night in the rain.
Oh,
Yeah, but
Did you see the PowerPoint presentation from Ann?
tonight.
I saw
Tonight.
part of it. I would love to see it from the beginning, and maybe I'll listen to the recording of this meeting because I know somebody said it's well documented, so I could ostensibly look at it by myself, but I always find it helpful to be led through.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's everything that we've had. So, if there's nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight?
So moved.
I'll make it, but I don't think you need it. But
Oh.
Doug looks like he made it.
Okay. In the second? All in favor? Aye, the meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.